Here's a big, beautiful powder blue uniform and black gauntlets and black boots, and boy, he just saluted like he was standing at attention, floating on by, and pulled a ripcord, and it blossomed, and that was it. But I thought, guys, terrific.
Yeah, we were escorting bombers. I think it was over towards a target in Magdeburg, Germany. It was a very clear day, which is unusual. As we made this turn, you kind of instinctively look back. My wingman called 4 bogeys coming in on us at 5 o'clock. So I said, well, I might as well take the leader. And he turned out to be a fairly tough adversary. He made this hard turn, and which caused me to overshoot him, you know, go past him. So I could see, oh, this is not too good. So I had wide open throttle, so I just pulled the airplane straight up as steep as I could, and he reversed his turn. Of course, I was worried about my wingman now because he would be behind me, and I told him to spin it off, get the heck out of there. But this guy went after me, and I pulled my airplane straight up, and I could look out the left side, and you know, he was below me. He couldn't quite get his nose up on me, and he stalled just before I did, and this put us in a reverse situation where he's going down, and now I'm chasing him. And he dove out, and as I closed, he made another one of these hard turns, and I said, uh-oh, this is the same thing. And so instead of overshooting and pulling up again, I came back on the throttle, and then he was very, very good. He saw immediately what I was doing, and he added full power and turned around and pulled straight up, thinking that I'd be slow. Well, I came back in with the power and pulled up, and just as he was going almost vertical, I let a burst go right into his cockpit. And the thing started smoking and just slowly rolled over like that, and I came up right alongside of him. I could look right in the wheel well and see the grease and the rivets on the airplane. And he rolled over slowly, and from 30 to 32,000 feet, he just went right straight into the ground. No turns or anything like that, just leaving a big column of smoke. Boom, you know, it hit the ground, burst in flame. It was pretty dramatic.
I think the general consensus is if you could get 4 or 5 missions under your belt, you'd be in pretty good shape. As soon as you've done some of it a small amount of time, your confidence level goes up. And we came out all right. As a matter of fact, we trained ourselves from there on in. We have able instructors. They work for the German Air Force.
The day of a mission began in the dark of night, a rude and cold awakening.
Okay, fellas, roll out. We have a mission this morning. Breakfast in half an hour.
Dear Mom and Dad, the door of our hut creaked open. I recognized Madeiras' voice when he shook me and said, "Cut the mumbling, Pete. We've got another one today." I crawled out of the sack and asked a few incoherent questions. Something about where is it today, what time is it, the weather. As I staggered through the mess hall, holding my orange and fresh eggs as though they were gold, I could see the rest of the boys were still walking around in a sleepy day, so I wasn't alone. I soon found myself riding down to our squadron operations in the truck, shivering from a cold morning that hadn't located the sun yet. Someone yelled briefing over at headquarters in about 20 minutes, so I hurried a bit with the flying clothes, tended to some in-case details with intelligence, and went into our pilot's room. As we entered the briefing room at headquarters, the pilots of other squadrons were sitting around discussing the possibilities of our mission. Naturally, we all looked at the map at the front of the room. It carried the details of the mission.
The target for the day is Ankle. Specifically, you are to destroy the Arado factory.
A few questions quickly answered. The weather, radio procedure, and taxiing for takeoff directions are given.
We have a high-pressure system centered over northwest Europe, up here near Finland, extending southwestward down across the British Isles, causing an influx of south and southwesterly air going up.
The signal for synchronizing watches is given, and we're all set.
off to be shooting at us. Sometimes I don't think those jerks...
Last-minute details are covered.
What do you expect, buddy?
We pick up our chutes, dinghy packs, oxygen masks, and life vests, pile into the truck, and we're off to our planes. Hiya, Kelly. How's she sound this morning? My crew chief, equally as fond of her as I am, gives out with a Pepsodent smile and says, "She'll go by her name, sir." Yeah, I mutter to myself, glancing up at the name printed on the nose. We were both on the wing by this time, putting the equipment into the cockpit and trying to fit me in with it. Anything in particular for me to watch, Kelly? She's starting to eat a little gas, but since you've got a short one today, there's nothing to worry about. Prop clear, I yell. Back comes clear. Switch on. A couple of primes and I push the starter. We all jockey into position for takeoff. Down goes the flag on time and off goes the leader. Yes, home never meant as much to us before as it does now. All my love, Pete.
Order was maintained in the sky by a tight hierarchy. There were 16 planes to a squadron, headed by the squadron leader. 3 squadrons made a group, commanded by a group leader.
His responsibility, of course, squadron commander, was not only his pilots, but the whole operation, the logistic, the crew chiefs, the armors, that it worked. The rest of the boys in the squadron were sort of, you know, he's going to take us through.
Tommy Hayes came in, and he was probably one of the best combat leaders we had. The particular thing about the fighter outfits is that a peculiarity is that the officers do the flying, they do the dying. The #1 man off the runway at the start of all this stuff is usually a senior officer, probably the group commander leading himself. When the squadrons go up, #1 man is usually the squadron commander or a highly experienced officer. Therefore, they generate leadership by demonstrating courage.
The fighter's mission was to protect the bombers. The bomber was a lumbering beast against the agile German Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs. The Germans preferred not to engage the fighter escort, concentrating their fire on the bombers.
Early on, we would look for what we called the Abbeville kids. But they were all the yellow-nosed, and it was Goring's crack outfit. They had to have 20 victories to belong. Well, I tangled with one day, and he and I were both doing everything we knew. And it was right on the treetops, and ultimately we ended up in a tight circle. He was on one side and I was on the other. If he rolls out, I got him. If I roll out, he's got me. So it's who's going to outlast who, and I had plenty of gas. So one of the things we could do with the 51 was drop 10 degrees of flaps, which gave us more lift. In other words, allowed me to turn tighter. So now I'm using the aircraft to its ultimate capability. And now it's a matter of me getting that flying. He's trying to give me the most toughest shot I can ever get. So I have to get out here to get enough lead to get him. So I am shooting, literally looking over the root, through my wing root, down where I'm on top of him like this, firing this way. And the tracers go out, they go out straight, but it looks like they're going like this. And I'm right into the top of the cockpit. And into the sniper rolled into the trees. But that was a full 20 minutes, half hour maybe.
So this one particular time, we were escorting bombers, and I remember just turning, kind of coming across the front. And, you know, we looked up, and here came about 8 109s, line abreast, just beautiful formation, just coming right straight into the bombers. And, you know, this is rapid. This is, the rate of closure is tremendous. You know, and here we are sitting up there at cruise speed. There wasn't a thing in the world we could do there but watch. And they went right through the bombers, shot down 2 of them, rolled over, split S, came back up and started to reform to make a second attack. Well, this one particular 109 that I got tangled up with, this guy was a little better than the average. And so there we are right out in front of these B-17s, and we're in a dogfight. We're coming around in a circle, and the B-17s are coming closer and closer and closer, and we're turning and turning and turning, trying to get after each other. And I had visions in my mind, you know, going right through these B-17s and then wondering who was who, you know, and B-17s would shoot at you, you know, if you got near them. P-51s looked like 109s, and lots of times they wouldn't know the difference anyway, so they shot at anything that came near. Anyway, you flew it very delicately, and I started to creep up on this 109, and the B-17s are coming right into my peripheral vision. And I don't know whether he was worried about the B-17s and decided to roll out, but he took it on down, and we ended up on the deck. And there was 4 of us and 4 of them, and we shot down 3 of them. I got one with a head-on pass, which is kind of exciting. And but again, it's just you know, if a guy turns and points a gun at you, you're going to point one at him and shoot first. And it worked, and I shot him down.
Combat in the air. This was what they'd come to do, and they developed their own way of doing it. As the dogfight could be, there was a code of honor, an unwritten understanding that the savagery of war need not make savages of its combatants.
I think the German pilot highly regarded, or had a lot of respect, as well as the American pilots, for a person in a chute, because with our aircraft and guns and sights and so on, you can, if you can see a frog, you can kill it. So that a person in a parachute is absolutely helpless. There is just, there's nothing challenging and there's nothing, anything about it. It's just, he's helpless. So it was pretty much an unwritten rule that nobody shot anybody in a parachute.
Breaking the code earned a pilot the disdain he had shown to others.
We had lost several 17s due to flak, and the sky was fairly heavy with parachutes blossoming. Well, here was a 109 going from chute to chute, shooting up the fellows in the parachutes. I latched onto him, and I picked away at him so he knew I was there, and I was trying to get him to bail out, which eventually he did, and I shot him up in his chute. That's the only time that I felt it was justified.
Small factors in a pilot's ability polished his skills even more.
Many of the successful aces I knew had remarkable eyesight. In my case, I know I could test out to 2015, which is better than normal. And I know Chuck Yeager's eyes were better than normal. And I do know that there's some kind of knack about seeing enemy airplanes. Chuck Yeager and myself, he was another flight leader in our squadron. We could see airplanes that nobody else could see. And you know, even after we describe where they are, what they're doing, you know, they don't see them. And I've been on an attack run before people in the squadron or other people in the flight knew what we were really doing.
For all their skill and bravado, the pilots found themselves